The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
This is what you can look forward to on episode 256 of Skywalking Through Neverland. Ooh. And to this day, every time I write it, I always see something that I've missed before.
Yeah, I think Walt kind of wanted it to be like the next generation magic, like a magic show.
I never thought of it like that the Haunted Mansion is one big magic trick.
I've seen Pandora opening, I've seen Toy Story Land opening, but this surpassed all of them by far.
Yeah, I felt so connected that I had to lick the walls.
Ew.
Come on, Bob Iger, you're our only hope.
Like if you want roller coasters that are going to spin you around, turn you upside down, and make you hang in the air before you drop 500 feet...
which offers you this chilling challenge to find a way out.
Are you ready?
Off to Neverland.
Here we go.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
When I first made Star Wars, everybody in Hollywood said, well, this is a movie Disney should have made.
You're more than just fans. You're family.
Best day ever!
Secrets loud.
It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Hey.
When you use a bird to write with, it's called tweeting.
When we visit the world of Disney, we never grow old. It's a Peter Pan, Never Land that keeps us young in heart.
This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are skywalking through Neverland. I have a good feeling about this.
Hey, foolish Skywalkers and grim-grinning ghosts! Where were you 50 years ago when Disneyland opened its newest attraction, the Haunted Mansion? Were you there? Or were you not even born yet? I'm looking at you, Sarah.
I know.
If you're here to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Haunted Mansion, then we want to welcome you to Skywalking Through Neverland. We are your podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars, Disney, and Marvel fandom. I am Richard Wolosky, but now everyone please say hello to my grim-grinning ghost, wife, sweetie wife, Sarah. It just didn't come to it. I tried.
That was really hard to say altogether.
Grim-grinning sweetie wife, Sarah.
I'm not a grim-grinning ghost, apparently.
No, not at all.
But that's okay.
No, I couldn't think of anything better.
I'd rather be a happy, smiling wife. How about that?
Good.
The opposite of a grim-grinning ghost?
You know what? I expected more for myself.
Well, okay. Well, how about we give all of our Skywalkers a big Wookiee hug for being here and listening to us and being a family of Skywalkers.
Madam Lee Sarah. Madam Leota Sarah.
It's still not working.
No, not at all.
It's okay.
Not at all.
It's okay.
I'm trying. Okay.
But we also want to give a shout out to all the face huggers out there who are, oh no, they're not face huggers today. They're YouTube, wait.
Skytubers.
Hi, Skytubers, because we're live on YouTube today.
Right. Donna Nelson on YouTube just says, raise his hand, I wasn't even born yet.
Okay, so Richard, you were just born.
I was born 8 months pre-Haunted Mansion.
Which means you're 52. Ah.
I'm not 52.
No, you're 50 as well.
50 also. Yeah, you scared me there.
I know. No, that's exciting.
Did I age 2 years?
Yeah, and the moon landing. You share a really awesome year.
Yes, I did.
Your anniversary of cool things.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
And Woodstock and the Monkees Present album.
Mm-hmm.
And some other fun, cool stuff, which I can't remember right now.
Do you know what's awesome?
What?
Is that NASA has released their entire library of audio and video for the general public. So it's all public domain.
Now, we are recording this on August the 12th, 2019. So it was exactly 50 years ago today. People were lining up for the Haunted Mansion.
Something new is waiting for you at Disneyland. It looks rather innocent. Just a big, old mansion. But there's a twist. You see, this mansion is haunted.
All right, well, this episode of Skywalking Through Neverland is proudly sponsored by Small World Vacations. They are a diamond-level Disney vacation planner travel agency and can help you book your trip to Galaxy's Edge or to any Disney park on either coast. Best of all, this service is free of charge, so please head to smallworldvacations.com and get a no-obligation price quote, and while you're there, you can tell them that Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
And this is the time to call them, too, because in 2.5 weeks, Galaxy's Edge will open at Hollywood Studios.
Oh.
So head over there to smallworldvacations.com, and once again, tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you, and this is the time to do it.
Absolutely. Now, what's coming up on this episode, Richard? Are you excited?
Coming up on this episode, we'll be talking with Haunted Mansion aficionado and author Jeff Baham about the 50th anniversary of the Haunted Mansion. I love saying the 50th anniversary.
I love saying Jeff Baham.
That's fun to say, too. And we're going to also talk about the special celebration held just last week about the 50th anniversary of the Haunted Mansion, co-hosted by Jeff Baham.
We'll also be speaking with our good friend and 501st member Marcus Dohring and Lisa Daniel from Disney Parks Live Entertainment about their adventures at Galaxy's Edge at Disney's Hollywood Studios in Florida. Because right now they have their cast member previews going on. So they got to go to one of those.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to them and see how that differs from our Galaxy's Edge.
Definitely.
And then going next month to see it for ourselves.
Yeah, super excited.
So excited for that.
Now, also on this episode, we have shout-outs and
things we want to share.
Things we want to share. Things we want to share. Things we want to share.
So I'm sure people have seen the clickbaity articles in the last couple of months about the low attendance at Galaxy's Edge and that it's a flop. Oh, I hate seeing those. And we can personally say that we've experienced crowds when we've been there, and it's really, really exciting. I can't see how they can put flop and Galaxy's Edge in the same sentence. Doesn't make any sense.
It's clickbait. That's all it is.
Now, Bob Iger just addressed the low attendance during Disney's third quarter earnings result webcast. So let's go over his points here, because there's a lot to talk about.
Right.
Yeah, a lot to unpack in this conversation. All right, so Bob Iger says, first of all, helped in part by some of our efforts, there was tremendous concern in the marketplace that there was going to be huge crowding when we opened at Galaxy's Edge. So some people stayed away just because they expected that it would not be a great guest experience. Now, what do you say about that point there?
Well, I definitely agree. I know a lot of people were concerned about Galaxy's Edge and were like, oh, I'm staying away, And then a lot of people who, like we're like huge Star Wars fans and we live here, so we were going to go as soon as we could. But I do think that some people who have to travel to get to Disneyland, like they're going to hold off until all the rides are open.
Now, there were so many memes and Photoshop pictures of crowds descending on Galaxy's Edge, and people were freaking out. So we did hear a lot of this conversation beforehand that people were just going to stay away because they were going to wait a few months until the crowds let loose. So there's reason number one why the crowds have been low, because you don't want to go to something like Galaxy's Edge and not have a good time because you're waiting in line for the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, for the merchandise, for the food, and just waiting in lines for everything. So it makes sense to wait.
Right.
All right, so let's go over more of Bob Iger's points here. He says not only were the anticipated crowds a deterrent for potential guests, but there were price increases which made it more expensive to access Galaxy's Edge. All right. Reason number two, the crowds may have been low because they really upped their annual pass rates and the rates for Disneyland for the day rates.
Absolutely. Yeah, and in fact, Skywalker Brian is saying right now in our comments that Black Spire isn't a flop. There's multiple reasons for low attendance, and it drove away non-APs, non-annual pass holders, and the price turned them off. even for a family of 4. So yeah, he does make a good point that like families who have to pay for their kids as well. I mean, we're a couple, so we just have to worry about 2 people. But yeah, people with families, I mean, they're paying they're shelling out what, $150 for a day ticket per person? I mean, already to get in for a family of 4, that's $600 right there.
So those are 2 points so far that Bob Iger had made that I think Disney should have really thought through when opening up Galaxy's Edge. All right, let's go over another point here. He says, at the same time that was going on, all of the local hotels in the region, expecting a huge influx of visitation, raised their rates. So it simply got more expensive to stay in Anaheim. In addition to that, we raised our prices. We brought our daily price up. So if you think about local visitation, we brought the price of a one-day ticket up substantially from a year ago. Okay, we kind of went over those points.
Exactly. Yeah, and like I said, that kind of brings up my earlier point of, people who are traveling here and have to stay in hotels, not just locals, they have to experience these hotel prices being really high.
Now, I didn't even know about that part, about the local hotels raising their rates.
Yeah.
Oh, so what did you expect? They should have, I don't know if people at Disney could have foreseen this and thought, let's check the local hotels and see if they're raising their rates and how can we counter that by lowering rates over here. You figured Disney would have thought these things through, but I guess not. All right, let's go over another point that Bob Iger had made. He says, and then we opened up Galaxy's Edge with 1 attraction instead of 2. A very, very important part here. The second attraction is going to open in January, so all of those factors contributed to attendance that was below what we could have hoped it would be. That said, guest satisfaction, interest in the attraction and the land is extremely high. It's the most popular thing at the park, and so long term, we build these things for the long term. We have no concerns whatsoever about them. We're opening Galaxy's Edge in August in Orlando. The second attraction there will open in December, and as I said, the second attraction in Anaheim will open in January, so we feel great about the product we've created. It just takes some time to work themselves out in terms of how the marketplace is reacting.
Right. Yeah, so I think, they're looking long-term, so yes, their plans in place to limit crowding in Galaxy's Edge worked too well, but as everything kind of works itself out and irons itself out, I mean, Galaxy's Edge will be a location that people are definitely going to be visiting, as time goes on.
Right, but right now, can they afford these clickbaity articles and YouTube videos that just splash Galaxy's Edge as a flop? I think they should be countering everything by, another point is that they had held off on the annual pass holders, and they weren't allowed to enter until next couple of weeks, next month?
Right, yes.
So knowing that attendance is low, they could have raised that substantially by saying, all right, annual pass holders, you can now come in the middle of July.
Well, they did do one thing where they had a special where anyone with an annual pass could have a friend come for $99 for a park hopper ticket, which is basically half price for a park hopper. Because park hopper tickets right now are $200. So they have a sale going on right now, a special. So they did counter that by saying, and that means if you are an annual pass holder who are blocked out on those days, you didn't have to pay the $150 for a single day, single park ticket to go in during this time period. You could just pay $99 to get in.
That's horrible.
Why?
Because if you have an annual pass.
Right, but it's the lower annual pass. We were not blocked out.
No, that's horrible. That's just my opinion. That is horrible. If you have an annual pass, now you have to pay more money to get in.
Well, no, but there's different annual pass levels, and the people with the lower levels are paying much less than our annual pass, which is only blocked out the 2 weeks per year. So that it's not horrible. It's just they accepted a lower price annual pass because they knew they'd be blocked out for certain days.
Okay, let's take Galaxy's Edge out of the equation. For the lower pass annual passes, the lower levels,
right?
Is this summer blocked out for them?
Yeah, some of them, or just the weekends, or things like that. It depends. You have to look at the annual pass calendar.
Right, but they said in the very beginning that they're going to block most of the annual passes because they didn't want the overcrowding at Galaxy's Edge.
Well, what they did was they split the calendar between Disneyland and DCA, and so a lot of those annual passes, like the deluxe annual pass, was able to get into DCA almost every day in the summer, but were blocked out of Galaxy's Edge for like the weekends at least.
Okay.
Or was blocked out of Disneyland.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's becoming more clear now.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they should have opened it up more to the annual pass holders that were blocked out, just to fill in the space.
Right.
And they would have done that in droves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that right there is the biggest reason why you see the light crowds at Galaxy's Edge. And for one, I'm very, very pleased with how they did this, because that meant when we went, there was no crowds, there's no elbowing. We could go on to Smuggler's Run within minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very, very happy about that. I just think they could have done a little bit more to counter all of this negative publicity beforehand.
What do you think they could have done? Or you just think they should have opened up?
They should have opened that up.
Annual pass.
Right. And like we were just saying, if they see the hotels around raising their rates, maybe lower some of their rates on certain things as well. Now, I know that they just opened up this $1 billion park and they've got to pay the people, so they have their overhead too. So
yeah.
I see it on their end. But what have we been seeing about Disneyland these last few months? Low attendance, people are not coming to Disneyland. Can they afford that kind of publicity? No, not at all. I don't think they can.
Okay.
Now, Finance Chief Christine McCarthy was also on the webcast, and she had a lot of points to make, points that we had just gone over about the annual pass holder restrictions and the whole reservation thing. Remember in the beginning, we could only go in for 4 hours at a time?
Mm-hmm.
That turned off a lot of people because they wanted to spend a whole day at Galaxy's Edge. So that once again was something else that deterred fans. And as we found out, 4 hours was more of a suggestion than a guideline.
Except for, well, like the first 2 days, they were pretty strict. And then after that, it was kind of like, yeah, you could kind of stick around.
Right. But to the general public, hey, you know what? We'll wait until that ban, the restriction, the 4 hour restriction has been lifted, then we'll go. So I think there was so much deterring fans and park goers even before they opened. Now, Christine McCarthy went on by saying, while Disney is raising their rates, competitors, including Universal Studios in Florida, dropped their prices, potentially luring consumers away from Disney's theme parks.
Yeah, they're smart to do this.
They're extremely smart to do this.
And there was new rides opening at these theme parks as well. Like Knott's Berry Farm had a new ride open just before Galaxy's Edge. Remember going to that event, and that was a not a log ride, but one of those water rides that you don't like.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, but it was pretty fun. And so let's go over some of the theme parks here, what their day rate is.
Yeah, the 1 day pass for Knott's Berry Farm, $53.
Wow. That's awesome.
That is extremely awesome. Now, of course, Knott's Berry Farm is no Disneyland.
But it still has like way better thrill rides than Disneyland if you're into that sort of thing. Like if you want roller coasters that are going to spin you around, turn you upside down, and make you hang in the air before you drop 500 feet, there you go.
Yeah, those days for me are over.
I know, scary.
Yeah, and we'll go over something else that Knott's Berry Farm has in just a couple of minutes. Now, Universal Studios Hollywood, $99. Now, for me, $99, that's a good day rate.
I agree.
Universal Orlando is $115, and that includes the studios and the Islands of Adventure. It's $115 per park, not for two.
Right.
$115 for one of the parks. And that, okay, $115, that's good. All right, let's stop it right there.
Except you have to get a park hopper for Universal Orlando because you want to ride the train, and yeah, you need a park hopper for that one.
Yeah, and like any parks, the more you get in terms of the more parks you add on, of course, the rates go down. Now, Disneyland, we're looking at $150 for the day.
Yeah, that's not a park hopper.
No, that's a one-day, one-park ticket.
So now Magic Kingdom is variable, but it kind of varies out to $109 per day.
That's non-peak days.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Non-peak days. Otherwise, it goes up, I think, to 125, I think. And it's for Park Hopper Plus, it's $169.
So you can see how the other parks, they're Johnny on the spot with this. People are going away from Disneyland. Hey, we're going to lower our rates to get them right over here. And I just don't think Disney is acting fast enough to bring back their people.
Well, the problem is Disneyland does have kind of a hard job and a balancing act because of there are so many annual pass holders who can descend whenever they want on the park. And like they don't have to worry about that in Florida, really, because a lot of people in Florida, they'll book hotel rooms and Disney will know when they're coming in Florida, all the annual pass holders. Whereas here, this is such a saturated area of people living here that, that's what they're trying to control. And that's why Disneyland did introduce that annual pass, the Flex Pass, where you have to schedule when you're coming as a pass holder for various times of the year.
Now, what would you like to see, Sarah, if Bob Iger said, "Okay, we need to bring in more people to Galaxy's Edge, and we're gonna let in more of the annual pass holders. We're gonna lower the rates." What else could they do for you?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking of families. If Disney wants to lure more families in to pay that ticket price, I think they should have a little more to do for kids in Galaxy's Edge. And like right now, there's not a lot of food selection for kids. There's not a lot of things that kids can do unless it's droid building, which is $100 a pop. So what I think they should do is, you know how Legoland has like you can like build your own robot and then fight robots or something? So I think they should have like droid races scheduled at a certain time of day in a certain little area, maybe by the land speeders, where, it's a nice open area over there. And they should have like droid races for, kids and adults. But I think the kids would be definitely lured to do that. And they could have Chewbacca be there, and Vi Marathi could come by and like cheer kids on. And I think that would be really neat.
A few times when we've been to Galaxy's Edge, we've seen Vi Marathi and Chewbacca and some other cast members pulling kids aside and doing fun little games. But we've only seen that a couple of times. What happened to that?
Yeah.
I think you're right. More things for the kids, and try to work in some kind of Jedi training, which was hugely popular over in the park by Star Tours.
The only reason I didn't say that is because there's not really a location for that. But I think it would be cool if they had like, how that cave like branches off and it's kind of the cast member area. But what if they would lead people in there and it would be this whole cavern that would open up into a Jedi training room? That's
a good idea. It's a lot of space and they could do that. But why not have it by Savi's workshop? And the gatherers could gather the kids. That's what the gatherers do. They still believe in the Force and the ways of the Jedi. The first night we were at Galaxy's Edge, we ran into that one woman that one cast member, the Batu local, who came over and said, "Oh, we're gonna have a secret meeting over here, and you guys got to make it over there in about 10 minutes." That happened once.
Yeah.
What happened to this plan of having these little pop-up scenarios happening in the streets and having these secret resistance meetings? They promised that, and we're still waiting for it.
Yes,
and that's one of my concerns, is that the immersiveness is not really there anymore. Now, as you see from our YouTube videos where we meet the Batu locals, that was a lot of fun, but let's call it what it is. They gave these cast members some backstory and said, "Okay, go to it."
Right.
Whereas if you go to Knott's Berry Farm, they have Ghost Town Alive. Now this is what Galaxy's Edge should be.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the testing ground for Galaxy's Edge, and having real actors as the citizens of this small town, and there's holdups, everything you would imagine in like a Western.
Right.
They would have the local robberies, and they would have so much that would pull you into believing that you're there.
And it wasn't a show. You would just be walking around, and whoever you choose to interact with of these characters, they would say, oh, yeah, I think there's going to be something happening over here in 15 minutes, so meet us over here. And then they would kind of act out a part in a play that happens over the course of a day. This whole story.
Yeah, the one cast member we had met earlier, the first day we were there, named Carlos, he was telling us that they were going to hire actors for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't really seen it yet. And there are some times when we've gone up to cast members to say, hey, tell us about your story. They're like, run, like rats on a ship, just disperse. Like, where are you guys going? They're not actors. And luckily we have met a lot of great cast members who have a lot of great stories. But, if you catch them at the wrong time, you can see that they just turn white as a ghost. Because where am I from? Pika or Pikachu, is it? Oh, I don't remember. Am I a fisherman? What do I do? So I want to see more of this immersiveness. And like you were saying about having droid races for the kids, maybe some lightsaber training, that could be very immersive. Mm-hmm. They could the gatherers could bring the kids over right by Savvy's workshop and have a little lightsaber training.
Right.
Bam! You bring back something as popular as Jedi training. You're doing something for the kids. That's a 1-2 punch right there.
Yeah. There's a lot of good comments here from our Skywalkers.
Oh,
Can I read some of them?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, first of all, Donna is saying that she would want more character interaction options. And one of you guys said, oh, okay, Henry says maybe in 15 years or more, they could have actual real life size pod racing engines. That would be awesome. I do have to say, Henry, that when I first walked into Ronto Roasters and saw that pod racing engine suspended and saw just how big it was in real life, I got a little teary. I was like, oh, it's a pod racing engine. That's really cool. Yeah.
Christopher Marino says on press day, there was a battle between Vi and Chewbacca against the stormtroopers. That was a one-time thing.
It was.
Why?
Yeah.
Why is that a one-time thing? They have this choreographed. They have the effects ready to go. Do this every third hour.
That would be so neat. Donna also says that instead of Citizens of Hollywood, which you get in DCA, or you get, not in Hollywood Studios, you have the Citizens of Hollywood that are wandering around. Mm-hmm. Also in DCA, you have these citizens of Buena Vista Street. They should have citizens of Batuu. And I guess they think they've filled that out with Vi Marati and the Stormtroopers. But I think, you're right. I think they do need to have just random citizens that have a name that interact with each other, that could interact with the guests. And by talking to those particular citizens, you can get even more of an overall rounded story.
Yeah, you have Rey walking around.
Mm-hmm.
Why not have? And she does interact with some of the kids, but I want to see more of a show. The people who buy the droids, like you were saying earlier, Rey could gather them and okay, we need to train our droids to help with the resistance. So let's have them do a little something. Maybe a little maze they could follow, or droid races, or there's so much right there, and I don't think they really utilize Rey as much as they should, or not that we've seen.
Yeah, I hear that Rey's role is really to find little kids and just kind of take them around and introduce them to the story that way. So she really focuses on the little kids and the little girls. That's why you see a lot of pictures of her, holding hands with little girls dressed in Rey outfits.
All right, but you know what? Go a little bit further. Mm-hmm. Have her bring all these kids to that one space for the lightsaber training. That'd be something right there for the kids, and to really use these $200 lightsabers.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. Now, one thing, Joshua did say. Now, we are kind of ragging on Galaxy's Edge. I mean, we do think it is amazing.
We're not ragging on it. We're just saying that there's ways, to improve it.
Right.
And there's things that they had promised, which we had gone in there hoping for, and where is it? And I think the bottom line is that Disney, you're getting all this bad press. There's ways to counter that.
Gotcha.
And you know what? I'm sure they have they have their own side of it, like budgeting or this or that, or they can't find the right people. I don't know. I'm just saying from our side of it, this is what we'd like to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, Joshua Jordan just said he got back from Batuu and it was amazing.
Yeah, he's at Walt Disney World right now, so he must have gone on a cast member preview. So that's exciting, Joshua. And he rode Smuggler's Run 3 times in a row.
Now, another thing, and I brought this up time and time again, I want to see more droids and more creatures walking around. That could really fill it out. And another one of the major complaints I'm hearing from fans and from park goers is that, where are the characters? You see Kylo Ren and the Stormtroopers and Rey and Chewie vie every once in a while.
Right.
But where are all these creatures and droids they promised us?
Oh, that would be so neat.
This is not too hard to do, especially when you can make a phone call to the R2 Builders Club and have a fleet of droids down there that afternoon, just rolling around. I know they wanted those autonomous droids, and maybe the technology wasn't there where they could do it. So what? Give us R2 units rolling around. Have creatures walking around the upper levels of Black Spire Outpost.
Yeah, so kids can't mess with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can't see, and they're hot in the costumes. Have them walk from point A to point B, and that would really help fill out the atmosphere and the immersiveness of Galaxy's Edge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Donna agrees with you.
Donna says, I miss all those Jawas and Ewoks and aliens from Star Wars weekends.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wasn't Plo Koon one of the aliens? Or I'm thinking, what's the one with the tendril heads?
Kit Fisto.
Kit Fisto. He was so cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many things you can do. Who's to say Jawas hopped aboard a ship and stowed away, and that ship landed on Batuu? Or have just new creatures walking around.
Yeah. Christopher says, if Mickey can walk around, so can an alien. That's true. Just needs a handler.
Well, yeah. Well, very, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so.
Yay.
So I'm just really confused as to why Disney is not acting fast enough to counter all this.
Okay.
They're acknowledging the problems. Okay, that's half the battle.
Yeah.
Now tell us what you're going to do.
I think they will really start acknowledging the issue if they still have bad press after the second ride opens in January. That's what I think. I think they're kind of waiting.
Right. Yeah. Like he was saying earlier, it is a long-term game. Just like, look at Disneyland 1955. That was a flop from day one. And look where we are now with it.
Exactly. Long term. Well, I know there's a lot of great comments here on this YouTube chat. So if you'd like to join in, please comment some more on what you guys think. And also, we'll post this episode when it comes out in our Facebook group. And we'll ask you guys to still comment more because we'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
And as a last note, we love Galaxy's Edge.
We do.
We love it so much that we don't want to see this negative publicity.
No, it hurts our heart every time we see Galaxy's Edge empty.
And we know it's clickbait.
Yeah.
But I just hate seeing that. Mm-hmm. Come on, Bob Iger. You're our only hope. Now, coming up later in the show, we're going to talk with 501st member Marcus Dohring and Lisa Daniel from Disney Parks Live Entertainment about their adventures at Galaxy's Edge at Disney's Hollywood Studios. But now, let's talk with Haunted Mansion author Jeff Baham about the 50th anniversary of The Haunted Mansion.
On this 50th anniversary of The Haunted Mansion, Who better to materialize and talk with us than Jeff Baham? He is the author of The Unauthorized Story of Walt Disney's Haunted Mansion. He is the founder of DoomBuggies.com and the Disney podcast Mousetalgia, and he just co-hosted a Haunted Mansion-themed 50th anniversary banquet, Soiree from Regions Beyond.
Now, Jeff is back on Skywalking Through Neverland to talk with us about the Haunted Mansion. Hey, Jeff!
Hello, Skywalkers. Thank you for having me on. This is quite an honor. Yeah, glad to be here.
Well, glad to have you back. We were thinking, who could we have on to talk about Jeff Baham.
Yeah.
Jeff Baham. Now, let's go back to the beginning here. When did your Haunted Mansion obsession begin?
Oh, boy. I mean, literally earlier than I can remember. I don't know that I would say obsession. I was a monster kid, born in the 60s, and I loved all those monster movies and Fangoria and, Famous Monsters magazine, all that stuff, and I loved making haunted houses I was kind of timid. Like, I didn't want to go and be scared or anything, but I loved doing the special effects and the scaring and making haunted houses and stuff. So I'd always had kind of a haunted house Halloween thing going on. And then my parents would buy us, we couldn't have the disco records. So there was no Saturday Night Fever, as much as I wanted that stuff. My parents wouldn't buy that, but any Disney records were fair game, right? So we had, the Chilling, Thrilling Sounds of the Haunted House, a couple copies of that. And then, of course, the Haunted Thorian Song from the Haunted Mansion record. So as early as I can remember, I've had that record. I probably went through 2 or 3 copies. I used to trace the pictures with the record in there, and I would bust the records and then have to get a new record. And, but yeah, as long as I can remember, I've been a huge fan of that record. And so that was kind of the Haunted Mansion, tie that I had.
Where did you live? Where did you grow up, I guess? Did you grow up in Southern California at all?
No, in the Bay Area. My parents grew up in Southern California and they had friends there. So we would go back there every year regularly to vacation. And so their kids and my parents, me and my sister, we all were kind of almost like cousins. You know how that is?
Yeah.
So we would just run around Disneyland as kids pretty regularly through my childhood. I mean, at least annually.
Do you recall the first time you went to the Haunted Mansion and thought, this is my future?
No. Actually, I do not recall the first time I went through it. I do recall, though, times that I would not go through it. I can remember specifically saying, no, I don't want to do that. You guys go on it and I'll wait at the exit. Cause like I was saying about the being scared thing, the record I thought was awesome because I love the pictures. Colin Campbell, an Imagineer, painted these amazing pictures, and it was very vivid and real to me. So I didn't really want to see that in real life. So I do remember, probably before I was 10, even before I was 7 or 8, probably, I distinctly remember telling my other friends, I'll just wait at the exit. So I know there were times when I wouldn't go on it. I do not remember when I actually finally did go on it though. But I mean, when I did, it was one of those, I know it from beginning to end because of the record album. So, that was a natural thing.
Yeah, we're a lot alike. I don't like these scary haunted houses. I like the fun, jovial, cartoony haunted houses. And ever since I was a kid,
yeah, exactly.
I've gone through the haunted houses at every Halloween. If they were scary, not so much. But when they were fun, I just wanted to go again and again and again. And then as times went on in the 70s and 80s, the people who ran these places felt like we have to have more horror in these haunted houses. And
yeah,
I can recall feeling very, very discouraged when that time period happened. I think it was right around the time when Halloween, the movie, came out in 1978.
Yeah, Halloween.
Yeah, that changed everything.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. I don't know how far in the Halloween woods we want to get, but I remember, the Young Life haunted houses were a big thing. I mean, they always had that gross, operation room, but other than that, they had a checkerboard room and strobe light room and blacklight room. There wasn't all this horrible stuff, right? That the theme parks have kind of, not Disneyland, but the other theme parks have kind of brought into the field. I mean, Knott's kind of started with the horrible stuff. And you're right. It was in the 70s horror movies time when the stuff just started to get worse and worse. I'm still a big Halloween fan, big monster guy. I love monsters. Gore, not so much, but,
no, not so much.
Yeah.
Well, fast forwarding to the present day, what is your personal favorite part of the Haunted Mansion?
Wow. So many parts of it bring to mind, things I know about the creation of it. I probably the stretching gallery, because that's when things get a little weird. Like you walk in and the ghost host tells you, welcome. You're in this haunted house, and then you get in this room and the doors close and there's the wall slides shut and there's no doors, and it's kind of weird. Like it stretches, which is a weird thing to have happen. Right. And, it's very like the Haunting-ish, that Robert Wise movie from the 60s. And, I think that's my favorite part, because it's like we were just talking about Halloween. It's not horrible, but it's really off-putting. You know what I mean?
It's like off-kilter. It makes you like, wait, where are we going?
Yeah. And then the underkey suicide there, you don't really think about it, but then you think about it, maybe. You know what I mean? It's just weird. And so I kind of like that, because it really sets this unusual setting that I kind of like. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Well, let's go around the table for a minute, because I think my favorite part of the Haunted Mansion would be, and I always look forward to it, the Grand Ballroom.
Oh, like you stole mine.
Well, I went first, so I get to call it. But it seems like all the time I'm in the Haunted Mansion, it's leading up to it. And when you finally get there, it's like, slow down. I want my doom buggy to slow down so I can just take everything in. And to this day, every time I ride it, I always see something that I've missed before. I remember distinctly seeing finally in the portraits, the two guys shooting at each other. Like that was way after I had seen it. And then there's like the two ghosts like swinging in the lantern.
On the chandelier.
On the chandelier, yeah. And so I like these things you don't notice right away because you're going so fast and there's so much to look at. And I just love the music there as well.
Yeah. For me, I love that part of the Grand Ballroom because I like to try to figure out what the stories are behind all of these ghosts. You have the hearse backing up into the entrance and the coffin sliding out of the hearse. Like, okay, who are those people and how did they die? And you have the old woman blowing out the candles of the cake. What's her story? How did she live in this big mansion beforehand? And who are the guests? And there's guests dancing. And what are their stories? How did they get here? And the organist, what's his background?
That's great.
Wow.
But I just want to say one more thing about actually my favorite part would be the four guys singing in the graveyard. The graveyard guys singing.
Oh, the busts?
The busts.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I can't believe I didn't think of that. But there's a reason I love the Cadaver Dans when the Dapper Dans change into the quartet.
I just love hearing Thurl Ravencroft sing.
Oh, yeah.
Shrouded in black sky. They pretend to terrorize when the ghosts come out to socialize. As the moon climbs high over the dead oak trees,
Spooks arrive for the midnight street.
creepy creeps with eerie eyes
Start to shriek and harmonize.
when the ghosts come out to socialize. When you hear the knell of a requiem bell,
We're closing where spirits dwell.
restless bones eat fairy life.
Rise as spooks of every size.
I was going to say, you're talking about how you want to know the stories of all those people in the ballroom. And that's really kind of a fascinating thing, right? Because Mark Davis has some concept art of kind of showing these people walking into the Haunted Mansion from outside and being pulled up in hearses and things. And it's kind of like the characters you see in the ballroom, only he has a perspective of what if we see them entering the Haunted Mansion. I don't even know if he ever thought that could actually be a scene, because he kind of probably knew you would mostly be inside this place or in the graveyard. But I think he was kind of trying to put together some ideas like, well, who's in here? Like if they were coming up here, the society, what society members, what kind of people would be coming in here? It's really interesting to think of, every time you have a question about a story, it's usually a character Mark Davis designed because it makes you want to know, like, who is this? Something about it makes you want to know more about what that character is or does or who it is. And yeah, that's just interesting because there's such a wide variety in the ballroom of different people. And
yeah. Is Mark Davis the chief designer for the Haunted Mansion?
I'm not 100% sure. That kind of was some of the problem. Mark Davis has been quoted as saying, well, there were too many chefs in this kitchen. I mean, primarily, and it's not as simple as a fight or anything, but Claude Coates was probably in charge to some degree. He was kind of in charge of the Pirates ride. and Mark was in charge of making the characters for that. And that worked out really well. I imagine it was a similar working situation, at least in the beginning, until Walt passed away. Claude was probably more or less like responsible for the final project, so to speak. But I mean, he wasn't a character guy. He couldn't have made those characters, so that was what Mark Davis was doing. So they really worked together. So it's, I don't know that there was really who's the person, in charge. Okay. But yeah, for sure. Yeah. Claude and Mark were like on the top.
Okay. And speaking of that, can you kind of recap the timeline of the birth of the Haunted Mansion?
I mean, it's a little vague, right? Because Walt Disney probably always had in mind there's going to be a haunted house in Disneyland.
Right.
I mean, he grew up with, I guess, electric, lots of experiences with different amusement type experiences that had Tunnel to Love or, the dark ride and the haunted house, and that kind of spooky thing, and I'm sure he thought, well, we got to have that. And he did, they started with, Fantasyland had a kind of a fun ride in Peter Pan. It had kind of a fun house with Mr. Toad, and then it had like the haunted house with Snow White's adventures. So they kind of put that together like a carnival would, and then, I just think, but he really wanted this over the top experience. And, for sure, 1957, like soon as Disneyland was up and running, he was on to the next phase, and he had Ken Anderson in 1957 start making treatments for a haunted house. So for sure it started then. They were also planning New Orleans Square and the Pirates attraction, and all that kind of went together. And in fact, Ken Anderson's earliest drafts kind of tied the Haunted Mansion and the Pirates of the Caribbean walk-through exhibit, kind of together as scenes that would be on either side of the street and work together, or attractions.
Wow, that's
so
cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is all quick in 1957. Then he pretty quickly shifted to, well, what if it was just more of a traditional haunted house? And then they tied in the Lonesome Ghost. There was a lot of, people complain kind of about Disneyland and IP, and what about the original attractions that don't have an IP? Well, the Haunted Mansion, at least when Ken Anderson designed it, he was all about the IP. He wanted the Lonesome Ghosts in there. He considered having, trying to license Universal Monsters to get in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He wanted, I mean, and these are like possibly just as brief as comments and ideas he had. It wasn't like, but he also, I mean, one thing that went pretty far, he wanted to get Mr. Toad and, Ichabod, the story of Ichabod Crane in there and the Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
So he was definitely all about like, what can we use that we have as intellectual property that will make people familiar with it and tie it into our haunted house, at Disneyland. None of those things really came to be, but a lot of his kind of ideas and themes followed through, when they finally did open the attraction. So that was 57. I think Walt Disney kind of figured out Ken Anderson's ideas were still kind of the Fantasyland-ish on a bigger scale, but still, we'll have a cyclorama in the back and kind of projected effects. And I think Walt kind of wanted it to be like the next generation magic, like a magic show. So that's when he had Yale Gracie come in, because Yale Gracie, he knew, was interested in these kind of quirky kind of things. And, I think Walt, he had that ability to just see what people could probably do before they even really knew. Yale comes from animation. So did Rolly Crump. But Walt knew they also liked this kind of dimensional stuff. So he brought them together and said, why don't you guys try to make some like real magic for the haunted house? And so, in the late 50s, then they came in and started making up this stuff, like just coming up with ideas for how to make statues talk and how to make ghosts appear and disappear and that kind of thing.
I never thought of it like that the Haunted Mansion is one big magic trick with all the illusions and all the effects. Wow, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, and that's kind of the legacy of Yale Gracie and the Haunted Mansion, right? Because you don't get till Mystic Manor, which is like next generation technology. Like that's the new special effects. But even for 1969, the Haunted Mansion was nothing new. Ken Anderson was kind of still recycling his ideas of kind of theatrical funhouse stuff. And then Rolly Crump and Yale Gracie kind of took it another direction, like a magic show, but they weren't doing anything like no holograms or anything like that. Like the most technological thing in there was probably projections, which were just, even projections, that was nothing new. Movies had been around.
Right.
And, but they just had, ideas that really came from magic shows of the turn of the century, lighting and mirrors.
Well, the whole Pepper's Ghost effect.
Yeah.
That is just
exactly.
Unbelievable. Which caused the effect of the big ballroom scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's kind of the showpiece effect, right, of the Haunted Mansion. And, they just came up with this stuff and Walt really, it appealed to him, I think, because he wanted it bigger and bolder and more magical and more unexplainable and more incredible. And that's what they were working on. I kind of get the sense that somewhere in there, Walt also wasn't quite ready to say, this is it. Because, that was a couple years they were working on that. And then it kind of stopped for a little bit, slowed down. The World's Fair came up in maybe 61, 62. And, we talk about like, well, the Haunted Mansion didn't finish because the World's Fair came up. And, there was a while they were working on things before that happened. They did build the building in 1962. Okay. So before they started on the World's Fair stuff, they built the building. And, I was talking to Tom Morris at this recent soiree. I don't know if you're going to talk about that in a bit, but he was telling me, or he was telling all of us really that, the Haunted Mansion back then was really still being designed to be this thing you'd walk through. So Yale and Rowley were really working on this big giant special effects magic show that you would walk through, even when they built the Haunted Mansion, building there in New Orleans Square. So once they went to the World's Fair and Bob Gurr started to design these ride vehicles that really could carry large amounts of people regularly and, and they wouldn't break down, really strong workhorse conveyance systems. Mm-hmm. That's when they finally figured out, this can be, a more efficient way of bringing guests through the Haunted Mansion. And, from 66 on, it was kind of, Walt Disney, of course, unfortunately passed away, and that caused a little kink in the works because it was hard for them to figure out how to exactly move forward. All the scenes and characters and effects were not decided on. And, I think Walt was pretty good at just saying, well, let's go that direction. And then they just shoot that direction, And so that's where you hear a little bit of this Claude saying like, well, let's make it spooky. And Mark Davis saying, well, Walt always wanted me to make things funny. You get that story comes in there. I think it's a little overblown in the mythology of the Haunted Mansion.
That they had that they always had arguments over that?
Yeah, warring factions. I don't think that. I think they more or less just kind of saw it philosophically differently and tried to put it together, right? And they did. Maybe not as successfully as they could have. It starts scary and then it pretty much dramatically just turns funny. Like there's not a big mixing of the two. So what some people might think that's cool, and then some people might say, well, was that really a successful compromise, or did they just kind of, it's hard to say. Like you look back and we all love it the way it is. So it's kind of hard to take apart what they did.
It really has its peaks. It really has its peaks and valleys. One area will be spooky with the bride with a hatchet, and then you're going down into a graveyard with singing ghosts. So I think they get the best of both worlds in there.
Yeah, well, I think that's the general consensus because it's obviously hugely popular attraction, right? So that worked out. Whether it's a little serendipity or whether it was fully like realized by Claude and Mark, it's kind of hard to say. I don't know that Mark Davis ever thought like this is exactly what I wanted. But I think he was proud of what he did.
But the people love it. Now, how much of this did Walt have a hand in? For the completed project, would you say that Walt had maybe 50% of his ideas, and after he passed away in 1966, the crew had to do the other 50%? What would you say would the ratio be?
I think Walt Disney's involvement in the actual what came of the Haunted Mansion was fairly minimal. I think it was more his idea to guide like what he didn't want. I think he didn't want it to be another fun house, and I think he, didn't want it to be scary haunted house looking in Disneyland. Like he had a number of statements that he didn't want it to be something. I don't know that, as soon as the World's Fair ended, like he was off to Epcot and, he had things on his mind that I think took the place of animation and the Haunted Mansion and the Disneyland stuff, so he had good people working on these things. He could make decisions when they came to him. And I think that's kind of how he left it. So like you see the 1965 special that they shot, and they show, he's going through showing Julie Rhyme, who was the Disneyland ambassador, like different scenes from the Haunted Mansion. You remember, he couldn't even remember, like, what do we call this thing? The House of Illusion. Roller comes like the Museum of the Weird Walt. So there's some things he couldn't, it was clearly like he was proud of what was going on and he thought it was cool, but he wasn't, the ringleader at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
He was working on Mary Poppins and things.
Oh yeah. And as far as themed entertainment goes, like I think Epcot was, one of his big chief primary things to think about.
Okay.
Now, there's been rumors and stories about different attractions being haunted or ghosts. People will think they see something moving or a hanging boy somewhere in a ride or two. Have there ever been reports of a haunting in the Haunted Mansion? Please say yes.
I think some psychic researchers probably take their, electrical equipment surreptitiously. How do you say that? Surreptitiously into the Haunted Mansion. And I wouldn't be surprised if they come out with their own positive readings. I am not a personal believer, so I can't really speak to whether or not I think any of that is actually factual, but I'm sure some of them have tried that and probably could tell you. I wouldn't be surprised if they came out and said, oh yeah, people are fairly regularly ashes dumped in the Haunted Mansion. It's happened a number of times. I think it happened when it used to be kind of an internet thing, maybe 10 years ago. I think, it happened a little bit more often than it probably does now because it's probably harder to just get stuff like that. And I don't know, all I'm saying is that did happen and not just once or twice, but, and that's kind of creepy, right? But I don't know if that really, some people might think that has some way to tie into some kind of, I think there's even a couple books out there that try to document Disneyland's hauntings, and the Haunted Mansion is certainly in there.
Paul Berry from A Window to the Magic podcast was on the show a couple of Halloweens ago, and he was telling us about a story where he was walking through that main corridor that goes up to the Doom buggies, and he turned around and saw someone standing in the hallway and kept on walking, turned back around, and they were gone. And there was no doorways.
In the exit, you mean?
In that hallway where all the paintings change.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure the story is a little bit different from when I'm explaining it because it's been a couple of years now. And he said, yeah, he knows that person was there and then was not there.
Whoa.
So I'm tending to believe there is a little something there.
All right.
That's what I want to believe, okay? I like the immersiveness of it.
I am not here to discount any beliefs whatsoever. I'm not even going to point out that there are exit signs clearly illuminated all along that corridor. I won't even say anything about that. I'm certain that remains unexplained to this day.
Nice.
Okay. Well, okay, so you, of course, have doombuggies.com. When did you start that website?
1997.
Wow, okay.
And this is all about the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, it's all about the Haunted Mansion. I mean, it covers Phantom Manor. The new version of Doom Buggies has Mystic Manor in there also, and some more information about more recent developments. Yeah, it covers everything. Everything Haunted Mansion.
It covers Haunted Mansions all over the theme parks, all over the world. That's awesome. So that's doombuggies.com.
So how many people have you met who were there when the Haunted Mansion attraction opened on, of course, August 12th, 1969? Yeah,
met.
Yeah.
Well, for sure. I mean, I just talked to Sherry Beskus Cook, who was there, but, she was the Disneyland ambassador who took people through the Haunted Mansion on its opening night, the press. So she was there. I've had a number of people talk to me about being there early on. Another friend of mine, Dan Olson, who runs the long forgotten blog, another Disneyland Haunted Mansion historian. He was there the opening week. I don't think opening day, but opening week-ish. And he remembers distinctly some things about that.
Ooh.
Yeah. Over the years, I've talked to probably a dozen people that have said, yeah, I was there and, I remember this and I remember that. And, it hasn't, some things have significantly changed, but overall it hasn't changed that dramatically. So, their memories are pretty consistent with how it exists.
What was there in the very beginning that is no longer there?
Well, we all know about the Hatbox Ghost, right? It's hard to say how many people really saw the Hatbox Ghost. It's kind of like Woodstock, I was there, but Dan Olson, who I trust, he remembers, seeing that. And that was one of the things that went in, came out really quickly, probably within a week or two. And other than that, some things have changed here and there a bit stylistically. There used to be spider webs at the end of when you'd be boarding into the Doom Buggies. That area used to be slightly different. Now it's full of candles and candelabrum and candelabras. But for the most part, the Haunted Mansion has really not changed. I mean, that's one of the things that makes it so incredibly unique. I mean, even after 50 years, people really want to embrace that very similar situation. Now, the attic has changed significantly. The attic actually was quite spooky. When it first opened, there was, as far as I know, there were strings that would hang in your face.
Oh,
and,
I hate those.
I hate those.
Yeah,
I hate those so much.
Yeah, in the attic, so it felt like spider webs, right?
Ugh.
And then there was just the bride, and the shrieking, horrible sounds, and some little skulls would like blast up on a wire, kind of like a fun house. And then the bride sitting there all creepy in the end corridor, right? So that was quite different, very dark, just kind of sparsely. Not a lot in there, and the spider webs in your face and the bride.
Could you still hear her heartbeat?
Yeah, you've always heard her heartbeat since the beginning. But other than that, mostly it's very similar. The ballroom, very similar. Madame Leota has had lots of technological changes in how they do her face. So now that the globe floats around, like they obviously didn't have the technology to do that in 1969. But the general scene, the film and her recitation and the instruments floating around, all of that is the same. The graveyard is almost identical. So yeah, it's very similar.
Now, what do you consider being the opening date of Haunted Mansion? Because I know, Sarah, when you were asking him the question, you were like, wait a minute, did it open on the 9th or the 12th? And the 9th up into the 12th were all media openings and soft openings, right? But the 12th was the official opening day of the Haunted Mansion?
Well, yeah, all the newspapers said opens on the 12th. And, it's one of those things where it's hard to tell how Disneyland decides these things. I'm fine with it being the 9th because I guess someone decided, hey, we let the public in the 9th. So that has to be opening day. So I guess that's what they figured out. If you go back and research the Haunted Mansion, everything you see will say opening August 12th. But the cast members did go the 7th and 8th. They had cast member previews. And then apparently they started, it was working fine. And so they just opened the gates like Disneyland does. They opened the gates for a soft opening on the 9th and started letting people in. And then the press had their preview the 11th, around, I don't know when they met, around 10, something like that. They met and went to Club 33. And then on midnight of the 12th, they went out and they were taken through the Haunted Mansion. And then so that's the opening day, the 12th.
That's fun.
I mean, I'm fine with the 9th. Let's just call it the 9th. Disneyland calls it the 9th and it's their attraction. So,
right.
Who am I? We're going to celebrate it on the 9th, whether we like it or not. Let's call it the 9th, although the 12th is what they had originally claimed.
Right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of August 9th of this year, you co-hosted Soiree from Regions Beyond, the 50th anniversary remembrance of the Haunted Mansion. And it featured Imagineers and late Imagineers' children, which was super cool. And there was a lot of information we didn't know. So as the expert, did you learn anything new from this fun night?
Yeah, I did. In fact, so we had former Imagineer Tom Morris come because he is a super nerd about the Haunted Mansion, just like I am. And, most of us Mansion fans, he's just out there doing his own research just because he wants answers, right? Because I kind of gave you the thumbnail of the history earlier. And you notice I said, well, there was this time, they built the Haunted Mansion and then, it stood alone and, not a lot happened and or at least we didn't know what was going on. So he wanted to know what was really happening there. And so he went at it from an architectural perspective. He took let's see how the building was built and, look for plans and pictures from the construction and see if we can piece together what was going on from that perspective, which is unusual, right? Because most people look at the people and the Imagineers and what they remember. And so he kind of found out that it was meant to be a walking attraction. Even when they built the building in New Orleans Square, it's a lot of us have thought, well, by that time they pretty much thought we're going to ride through this big thing. But he kind of figured out, no, they still thought because architecturally there were exits and things that lined up with different treatments and scripts. And he kind of put all together to figure out, no, he thought they were still trying to make these two mirrored walking through haunted house attractions that would exit with kind of a maze where you could choose an exit and exit into a graveyard.
Oh.
I know, that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I never knew that before. That's exciting.
Yeah, a little bit more like a walking, kind of like a haunted house you would see these days, at Halloween, a little spookier, and a little more interactive. So he's been doing a lot of research about that, and that's what he presented at the soiree. And yeah, I didn't know a lot of that. So that was really fascinating.
The one highlight for me that night was the story and song of the Haunted Mansion. And that's when you had Peter Renaday up there as the ghost host and Mark Silverman as the narrator. And Mark Silverman is the voice behind Rod Serling in the Tower of Terror attraction. And you were there, and you had a female counterpart, and you were doing a story as if you were really going up to the Haunted Mansion. I thought that was really fun to see Peter Renaday doing the ghost host and just watching how he reads this and how he brings us alive.
And how he relishes the laughter.
Oh, that laughter.
I know. I gotta be honest. So that was the fourth time I've been able to do a reading of the Haunted Mansion with Peter Renaday. Like, I halfway throw these events just so I can get Peter Renaday there to sit and read the Haunted Mansion script with him, because that's my childhood, right? And if you had told 8-year-old Jeff with his Haunted Mansion record, someday you'll be reading the script with that guy, 45 years from now, I would have probably, spit. But, it's just, I mean, it's a little selfish and personal, but I know people love it. And Peter Renaday is just, has this enormous storied history with the Walt Disney Company and the Walt Disney Studio. Like, he's done so many. He was even the voice of Mickey Mouse briefly for, I think Mickey Mouse Disco or one of those, a couple of those records. He actually voiced Mickey Mouse. So he's done so much voice work and bit parts in films. And he's just one of those workhorse studio guys, through the ages. But and Henry, so people either fall onto a couple, like either him as Henry Bear from the Bear Country Bear Jamboree, or the ghost host from the story and song of the Haunted Mansion. So, I mean, I heard Pete Renaday every day for years when I was a kid. Like, I'd come home and turn it on, and there it was, right? So, yeah, that's special to me, and I'm glad people responded to it.
A few years ago, we were at a Friends of the Magic meetup, and Peter Renaday was there, and Sarah and I walked over to him. I think we had been doing skywalking for 3 days.
Yeah, right?
And we said, Mr. Renaday, would you mind doing a promo for us, please? Yeah. And he did. And every Halloween, I just love inserting that into the show, just because I get such a thrill knowing that, like you, I used to listen to this Haunted Mansion record as a kid. And knowing that guy is now promoting skywalking, I just get tingles whenever I hear that.
This is Peter Renaday. I am the ghost host, and I'm skywalking through Neverland.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're all fans of this person or that person for our own personal reasons. Like, I'm just some people get a little touchy when Pete Renaday, he's the ghost host for me. I love Paul Frees. Like, he's amazing, multi-talented guy. He's all over Disneyland. He well deserves every, accolade he's given, by the fans. But specifically about the ghost host, I mean, I grew up with Peter Renaday being the ghost host. When I went to the Haunted Mansion, I remember thinking, why isn't it echoing? And, this isn't the ghost host. And so Pete Renaday is a hero to me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So once again, you did a fantastic job co-hosting this night. And is Disney doing anything around the 50th anniversary of the Haunted Mansion?
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, so did you guys attend any of the Disneyland parties for the 50th anniversary?
So we did not. Was that the after hours event that was $300 per person?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
That was it?
Yeah, that was what they did.
Okay.
Mainly.
Okay. Well, so we don't need to talk about that. Like, there's very mixed reactions about that from people. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. Some people were in the middle. But to answer your question more specifically and towards the future, yes. So the D23 Expo is going to have some very specific, large, very probably popular, panels and discussions about the Haunted Mansion. A number of them.
Okay.
Yeah. The Haunted Mansion will be well represented at D23. I mean, Club 33 right now has an exhibit up there about the Haunted Mansion. The Disney Archive on the studio lot has a big exhibit of the Haunted Mansion inside Disneyland in the Disneyana, or the gallery outside of Mr. Lincoln has a giant, really incredible exhibition about the Haunted Mansion with things I had never even seen before. I mean, artwork no one had seen before. So they really are, I mean, I think they're doing a good job of respecting the history and the popularity of the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah. Mousetalgia did a very good review on that, on the gallery exhibition. So that night, Sarah and I were like, okay, we gotta go.
Yeah.
That sounds just incrable.
Yeah, so we went. And
so there's been a lot of little things. And then all culminating into your soiree, which I thought was perfect because you went into the inside of the making of the Haunted Mansion, to the story of the Haunted Mansion. You had a great band there playing some Disney Haunted Mansion tunes. It was a fantastic night. And
well, thank you.
Speaking of conventions that are having Haunted Mansion panels, we hear there's a Haunted Mansion panel at the Silicon Valley Comic-Con on August the 18th. Do you know anything about this, Jeff?
I heard that myself. Is that really coming up on August the 18th? Yeah. Yeah, I will be talking about the Haunted Mansion at Silicon Valley Comic-Con on Sunday, August 18 at noon. If you happen to be in the Bay Area, it's a good convention. Sunday has often been like a little cheaper and a little less attended. Although this year their big Terminator panel is on Sunday the 18th, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to be there along with a bunch of actors from the Terminator franchise. So it's going to be a pretty big day at the Silicon Valley Comic-Con. So I'm pretty excited to have like my little panel there. I'm really looking forward to seeing like who turns up. I've done Disney conventions, frequently actually talking about the Haunted Mansion, but I have never really done a Comic Con like this one, specifically. And it kind of tends to focus on, next generation stuff and robotics. The Silicon Valley Comic Con has its own flavor, right? So, I'm still trying to figure out, I'm a few days out, so I'm trying to figure out exactly how to hone my conversation, but yeah, really looking forward to that.
Is this panel going to be up against the Terminator
panel? I was about that.
Then I might as well not even show up. No, actually, it will not. And in fact, it's at high noon. The Terminator panel, I think, is at 3. So hopefully there's time to get in line for that. I don't actually know what to expect from that. I'm hoping I can get into there to see that panel. Who knows? But I'm at noon. They're at 3. Should be plenty of time to get back and forth. So,
nice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we won't be able to be there ourselves. So will this be recorded and played on the Mousetalgia podcast, or are you going to have a video up on YouTube?
I'm not sure. I'm not a big YouTube publisher, but I'm sure I'll record it and we'll see. I mean, I honestly, this is fairly recent, with a few weeks that it turned around, the opportunity and everything. So I don't even actually know Silicon Valley Comic Con's, what their rules and regulations are, but I'm just really looking forward to it. Of course, I'll record it and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Any guests planned?
Some people expressed a little interest in joining me, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm not even going to go there. So no, it's just going to be me, but it's going to be chock full of information. I always try to find some way to give people, I kind of have to, this is actually a little bit tricky for me because I don't know if it's going to be a lot of Disney fans or just a lot of pop culture fans that say, hey, Haunted Mansion, I kind of want to check that out. And, I don't want to get in the weeds to where they're like, what are you even talking about? But at the same time, I always like to present, even just for my own self, something new and interesting or a different angle on the stories that we've all heard. So yeah, I'm still kind of working that out.
Yeah, you can always have an A script and a B script, and if you find that more people are just the casual fans, you go to the A script. But if you see that they know the names like Pete Renaday or
Claude
Paul
Coates.
Frees or then you can go to the B script and go, okay, now I'm going to get really inside baseball. And
yeah, that's solid advice. I will take that.
Nice.
Now, if people want to reach out to you on social media and ask you any questions about the Haunted Mansion, or ask you about doombuggies.com or Mousetalgia or the Silicon Valley Comic-Con, where would they go?
Yeah, you can find me on, Twitter, Doombuggies Web, at Doombuggies Web is Twitter. And on Instagram, we're just Doombuggies. And Facebook, there's Doombuggies has a page. So, pretty much Doombuggies anywhere you can get a hold of me. You can also write to, I'm trapped in the AOL zone. I mean, I've had my AOL address since the mid 90s, right? And just, that's how the world knows me. So as for now, I'm still chefmayhem@aol.com. If you want to send me an email directly, I'm there and I'll answer your email. So.
And if someone wants to go and find your book, The Unauthorized Story of Walt Disney's Haunted Mansion, where would they go to do that? On your website, on Amazon?
Yeah, well, just go to doombuggies.com/book. That's the easiest way to get straight there. It'll redirect you to Amazon. It's on Amazon. Thanks for mentioning that. You know, I'm proud of it. I have a version that just came out a few months ago, for the 50th anniversary. And if you have already bought my book, I'm not saying go out and buy another one, but I added 3,000 or 4,000 more words. So,
that's worthy
it's fresh and new.
Yeah, that's worthy of updating it and buying it again.
Now, do you sign them? Or can you?
Well, yeah. So I don't currently resell the books myself, but I do send out, book plates. So if anyone buys a book and wants a book plate with my autograph in it, you just have to email me at chefmayhem@aol.com and I would be glad to, sign a book plate for you.
Well, if Disneyland ever decided to add one more ghost to their 999 ghosts that haunt the Haunted Mansion, Jeff, you should be it.
Wow, Richard, what are you saying?
I'm saying that maybe Jeff should be careful in the future.
I accept that, and I resemble that comment. I accept it fully. I would be proud to be the 1,000th happy haunt.
I would love that too.
That'd be awesome.
All right, Jeff. Well, thank you very much for coming on after a very, very long weekend of hosting parties and going to Disneyland and having some fun.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you having me on the show. Thanks very much.
Hurry back.
Hurry back.
Hurry back.
Hurry back. Be sure to bring your death certificate.
Shout-outs, Skywalker shout-outs. Which Skywalkers get props from here in Neverland? Who was tweeted out? Shout out. Who was photobombed? Shout out. Who was shared a post? Shout out.
Shout-outs this week. I want to give a huge shout-out to Eric Onkenhout, who has been writing several articles on Galaxy's Edge comics and Galaxy's Edge books for Skywalking Through Neverland. Now, his latest article is a review of Pirate's Price, written by Lou Anders. And these are articles on skywalkingthrough-neverland.com. Now, on Twitter, Lou Anders answered a question that Eric had in his review of where the first story in the book takes place. So Lou had written, the first story takes place just a little while after the events of Solo. And they were sharing comments together, Eric and Lou, about writing, and it was very cute. So Eric had said to Lou, "Thank you for reading my review." And Lou said, "Thanks for reviewing my read." And Eric said, "The pleasure was all mine. I really enjoyed it. I hope you write more Star Wars in the future." And Lou says, "Your lips to the Force's ears." Does the Force have ears? I don't know. What do you guys think? Does the Force have ears?
I think the midichlorians have ears.
Well, Eric said, "The Force knows all, whether it has ears or not." Hey, what's that creature in Star Wars Rebels? That has ears. The big giant creature who's voiced by one of the doctors.
The Bendu.
Yes, that's it. The Bendu has ears.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So hopefully the Bendu is listening. So I thought that was fun, and I love Twitter because you can talk with these creators, like right there. Have a great conversation. All right, moving on. Once a month, we give a huge shout out to our Skywalking Force. Now, we want to thank all of you for contributing to the success of this show and Skywalking Through Neverland. So here are the August shout outs.
We want to thank Jennifer Cole,
Michael Knipp,
Scott Hume,
Peter and Norma Heitman. Hi, Mom and Dad.
Carl Fox,
Terry Lee,
Mike Sanders,
Brian Sims,
Bryn McKinnon,
Christopher Marino,
Anthony Kakias,
the Hunt family,
Patrick Pine,
Garrett Sessions,
Laura Bryce,
Reynold Gobet,
Jeff Long,
Dora Speck,
Michelle,
Glenn Stein,
and
Chickafant. If you are interested in joining forces with this awesome group, please check out skywalkingforce.com. And Jeremy Hunt came online just to hear a shout out. Awesome, Jeremy.
Thank you, one and all.
Also, I want to give a huge shout out to all of you watching live on YouTube right now. You've had some really great comments. I know we haven't been able to get to all of them while we're recording, but we definitely read all of them, and we want to thank you so much for joining in and sharing this with us.
So thanks to all the Skywalking Force family and all the Skywalkers themselves for listening to the show every week and watching our videos. In fact, we just posted a brand new video on Galaxy's Edge. Who is Oga?
Yes. So we went around and talked with our Batuu citizens, and they had some fun backstory and gossip to share about Oga.
Because we don't have any idea who Olga is. And originally, Olga was supposed to be an animatronic in Olga's Cantina.
Oh, really?
But that didn't really work out.
That didn't materialize?
Not at all. Not at all. So there was a lot of great information in the book Black Spire. That's coming out on August 27th. So we got that information from the book, information from the cast members, and we made a video to give you the background on who this Olga is. And bottom line, she's not a very nice person. Not even a person, a Blutopian.
Yeah. What is a Blutopian?
Watch the
video.
Find out. Exactly.
So you can go to youtube.com/skywalking through Neverland, and it should be one of the very first videos.
Oh, this just in. Reynolds says, love the Olga video.
Woohoo! So did
Thank you very
Jeremy
much.
Hunt.
Oh, well, thank you very
Yay.
much.
Awesome.
More to come on the background of Galaxy's Edge.
This is Ashley Eckstein, the voice of Ahsoka Tano and founder of Her Universe, and I am challenging you to wish upon a star and make your dreams come true. And I am skywalking through Neverland.
Star Wars Galaxy's Edge just opened up their gates last week as a soft opening to cast members at Hollywood Studios in Orlando, Florida.
Our good friends Marcus Dohring and Lisa Daniel just came back from their visit to Black Spire Outpost, and now they're here to tell us all about it.
Hey, Marcus and Lisa.
Hey, Sarah and Richard.
Hey, thanks for coming on. We can't wait to hear the stories after all the times we've been to Galaxy's Edge over here at Disneyland. Did you guys go in cold, or did you look at reviews and videos of our Galaxy's Edge before going in?
Well, I did look at, pictures. I was generally interested how it looks. I didn't look into detail, how the rides were or what you can buy. That I kind of left open to, as a surprise to me in a way. But I did generally know what to expect, based on the pictures I saw.
Okay. And Lisa, being a cast member, you had the inside scoop all along, didn't you?
I did, only to a certain extent, though, because a lot of things are kept more and more private nowadays with Disney and the development of rides and shows and attractions, because everybody wants to get in the know and things can leak. So I knew just a few things about it. I learned more as I saw more photos of my friends, doing like group team outings to the Galaxy's Edge, and photos started to leak, between text messages and like private messages. And I kind of said, okay, that's enough. I don't want to see any more. So I kind of backed out of social media for a few days, weeks. So I didn't want to get it spoiled for myself.
Gotcha. And I know there's a big difference between looking at pictures and videos and actually being there.
Yeah.
What were your expectations and were they met?
I didn't really have any expectations. I wanted to be, as advertised, I wanted it to be immersive. I wanted the whole experience. I wanted to look to my left, to my right, and not see anything else except, Black Spire and Batuu. So that was kind of my expectation going in.
For me, having worked at Hollywood Studios for a great part of my life, I had seen that same area as New York Street and Lights, Motors, Action, and, the Backlot Tour with Catastrophe Canyon. So when I saw that being demolished, my first thought was like, how is this going to possibly be a whole different, land altogether? So seeing the construction literally from the ground up and just watching those just trusses and beams and then concrete overlays. And so I have been gone from Disney here in Tennessee for about 6 months or so. So to go back and see it all completed was, it was astonishing. My eyes were open, my jaw was dropped, and it was totally immersive and something I'd never seen before. Like I've seen Pandora opening, I've seen Toy Story Land opening, but this surpassed all of them by far.
Wow. Well, that's exciting to know. Can you guys just take us through your time there? Was it also a 4-hour window that you had?
Yes. So our reservation was from 1 to 5, and we had we at that point when we registered for the time slot, we didn't have all the options available anymore. So one was the Savvy's Workshop, the other one was the Cantina, and then the third one was what again?
Just the Smuggler's Run.
Just the Smuggler's Run. No other options. So we were left with, which was good, the Savvy's Workshop and the Smuggler's Run. So, then we had the date available as well. It was August 10th, and we were really excited because it was a Saturday. We were both off. So we just flew down from Nashville to Orlando and then got there at 9 a.m. and our tour started at 1, or our immersive experience started at 1. We were there at 12:30, and they already let us in at 12:30.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, we got a Savvy's Workshop 12:45 reservation, and so that's where we were heading. But we went inside, obviously, and we were in the land. We were officially arrived in Star Wars, and it was good that it didn't start. You weren't exposed to everything right away. You were. I call it like the outskirts of Black Spire. There was not much to see yet. But then. We had the A-Wing coming up, and then the X-Wing, and then we saw Chewie work on the X-Wing. So, but we haven't seen the rest yet. So it was just, step by step. And, it was incredible. It was literally like a video game almost, where like a online multiplayer, like massive multiplayer role-playing game. You had to ignore all the, Chicago Bears and Florida Gators T-shirts that people were wearing, but it was just incredible. And so as we worked ourselves towards Savvy's, we actually asked a denizen,
yes,
where do we find Savvy's? And he said, "Oh, are you here for scrap metal?" And we said, "Yeah, that's what we're here for." Yeah, he led us there, and that's where true journey started.
Yeah, it was for me, going into Hollywood studios. When you go through the front turnstiles, you're immediately, caught up in the Hollywood of the 1940s, and there's background music, and the music is loud, and through every turn you're hearing that music that kind of gets you in the zone for whatever part of the Hollywood studios that you're in. And then entering Black Spire, there was no music at all, only the atmospherical sounds of what would be Batu. Whereas like you can hear the ships flying overhead and your head's like, where's that coming from? What's happening over here? And it puts you into a deeper story. Mm-hmm. There was, I missed the music. I was like, where's the music? But then I realized that, this is a planet. There's no BGM on a planet. This sounds of people working and the creatures, scurrying by, and some, light communication, between different, in different languages. And that part to me really took me makes you want to be quiet and really just try to figure out what's happening around you in each corner, and each little different nook and cranny had a different sound and a different feel to it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was so much to explore. I think you need, multiple days to go there and just look at every inch, every, square inch of walls, and there's a blaster shot, and why is this wall crumbling? And just you can totally immerse yourself the way you want, to immerse yourself. You don't have to go a certain way. You can spend an entire day in the cantina if you wanted to, or feast yourself on Ronto wraps or whatever, or sit in the docking bay 7, food and cargo restaurant and just look outside the Falcon. It's just it's an amazing experience. But so the first stop was Savvy's, and Lisa bought the lightsaber, and I was just the fan. I was just the bystander.
So which version did you go for?
I went for Peace and Justice.
Ooh.
Yes, I prefer, a more classic saber hilt style. My favorite saber design is Luke Skywalker from Return of the Jedi. If I could have made the exact one, I would have made the exact one. But in my mind, I wanted to craft something similar to that. So I did choose the green crystal. It's my favorite color is green, but I also, again, I wanted to emulate, Luke's Return of the Jedi saber. But our Kembe, that is the scrap metal gatherer, he was phenomenal. I got emotional a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
I can't lie. I got a little lump in the throat, choked up. Everyone there who was part of that experience, the cast members were really enjoying and really immersed in what they were there to do. The whole story played out, and our reveal of the saber was absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even touch it for a while. I think I looked at my saber like glowing there on the table before I put my hand on it, and it was this surreal moment of like, I wanted to wield my saber and throw my hood over my head and it was like, I'm still getting chills over it.
It was magical.
How were the crowds that day?
Well, we came in at, like you said, 12:30, and so before that there was only a 9 to 1 and an 11 to 3 time slot that had been there ahead of us. So we still got there pretty early ahead of the game. When we arrived, in the beginning, I think most of the crowds that had been there earlier than us had already moved more toward the back. Back of the outpost. And so, we had the beginning part through the gate was very, we had lots of room to roam. I think the wait time for Millennium Falcon's Smuggler's Run was about, said 50 minutes, but it was more like 25.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And because the line moves with the constant, forward motion of the line, and there's so much to take in and so many details in that queue, it didn't feel like more than 10 minutes really to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I know the first time you walk in there, it's great. You just want to soak it all in.
Yeah. And you're standing there, you're like, they're like, move forward, and we're like, oops, sorry, I was taking in all the details of everything.
But after Savvy, so we got this really cool lightsaber pouch, this roll. We didn't have a map actually. We missed the map on the way in, so we kind of we just winged it. We just followed the crowd, I guess. As we rounded the corner, there was the Falcon. I mean, yes, I've seen pictures, people posing in front of the Falcon, but man, seeing it and just, it is so massive. It's amazing. So we were just standing there, just, mouth, agape, and just like, oh my God, another lump in the throat experience for sure. After our initial shock or shock of, or shudder of pleasure, I guess, we just, we went, we wanted to go to the ride. So we did. And like Lisa said, it was advertised as 50, but it was really more than 25. And it was really just the way that they guide you through the docking bay, almost always inside of the Falcon from different levels was pretty cool. And then all the stuff they had on the inside, the sabacc table, and I saw some stormtrooper armor, and it's just so much detail that went into it. It's just incredible. I mean, the imagination just to put everything where it's supposed to go is just incredible.
So when you rounded that corner and saw the Millennium Falcon sitting there for the first time, what was the thought that ran through each of your heads?
Like, for me, I wanted every single Star Wars scene that involved the Millennium Falcon played in my head. Like, I imagine, every single scene. Like, I wanted to reenact every scene at that moment. Like, my favorite scenes. I wanted to go up the gangway. I was like, I wonder if I can sneak up just to put a foot on there, because you want to play that role like you're in the movie. It's a fantasy. It's everybody's fantasy as Star Wars fans. And when you see that, you're like, this is like the quintessential toy that you had as a kid, and now here it is life size for you to play with. And I had to restrain myself from boarding that ship.
Yeah, do that at the end of your 4 hours?
Or the end of your employment at Disney?
Yeah, exactly. I just hand over my blue ID and or my credentials.
All right, Marcus, how about you? When you rounded that corner and you saw the cockpit and then the rest of the ship, were you like me and just fell to your knees and cried?
We did shed a tear for sure. We just stood there on the top of the stairs next to the docking bay restaurant, and then we lost. We didn't see anybody around us. We were just it was just, us three, the Falcon and Lisa and me. And then everything around it, the whole docking bay is so amazing. And like the outside. And then we just, okay, let's go inside. Let's do the ride and let's see what this is all about. And we, like I said, it was just a breeze. It didn't feel like even 25 minutes because there was so much to see, and lines were so smooth. The progress. And then we got in, inside the Falcon, essentially, and sat on the couch and got handed engineering cards. So yeah, so we got the last row. So I had no idea what to expect. I saw videos, but I didn't know not really knowing what not to expect. We saw, Hondo, and he told the story, what we should do. And so we got in the cockpit and the pilots did their thing. And then, Hondo said, okay, engineers, fire their harpoons and this and that. So we did a pretty good job. I think we got both coaxium crates.
Ooh.
Let's go back to Hondo really quickly.
Oh, Hondo, yes.
Yes, let's go back to that.
Okay, go ahead.
I thought on several occasions they must be a real actor.
Yeah.
That was the most intense animatronics I've ever seen in my entire life at Disney.
Yeah.
That was such detailed, precise movement on an animatronic. Did you guys think so?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we thought Hondo was super cool.
Yeah.
I thought he's great.
His movements are so fluid.
And he turns around like it looks like he walks.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, is this an actor? And I said, no. Because before that, like the one at River of Light at Avatar, Pandora, that's a pretty detailed animatronic also. But this one, blows it out of the water, literally.
And then when they brought you into the cargo hold of the Falcon,
yes,
was that just like life changing?
Yeah. I touched the walls, like
he did. He took a picture of his hand on the wall.
Those iconic squares, white squares, or feet squares. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, I felt so connected that I had to lick the walls.
Ew.
Touching just wasn't enough. I had to lick it. Did you pass through the hallway where Han and Leia kissed?
No, we were ushered like, come on, orange card, come on this way. So we barely had time to take a picture on the couch and, pretend to play Djarik. But I've seen you guys, snuggled up there in the alcove. But no, we didn't go there. So yeah, we finished the ride, and I mean, just I was really envious of the pilot, because especially of the right pilot, pulling that hyperspace lever.
Yeah.
That was so cool. Just, I mean, it was a very short sequence, but it was just like right pilot, let's go into hyperspace, and then we just and it went, and oh my god, it was so amazing. It was it was obviously just like Star Tours with regard to the motion
simulator.
The simulator, but it was, you were so busy with everything, you didn't really feel like being just jostled around. It was really cool.
It definitely helps when you have a flight crew that's all very much engaged in what they're doing. They're yelling at each other like, punch it, and engineers, go, we gotta get that.
Yeah.
So we're all like, just we're total strangers,
right?
With the rest of the crew, but we all just played the part and really got into our parts and our missions, and it made it a lot more fun.
Yeah. So after we left, we didn't explore everything yet. It was Savi's, and then it was.
Did you guys get to try the blue or green spiked milk?
We did not.
The line was too long.
Yeah, but by the time we got back there, the line was pretty lengthy, and we had at that point already had Ronto roasters. We ate at Docking Bay 7.
Oh yeah, we had oi puffs or something. That was funny.
I saw from your pictures on Facebook that you guys had some Kadoo ribs.
Oh,
yes, we did.
Aren't those good?
Those were
and
good.
The shock roast was amazing also.
Yeah.
Oh, yummy. Those are good together. And then you split
That's
them.
what we did. We got the two of them, and then we split them down the middle, and then we shared them, and we shared a little bit of the accoutrements for each of them with the oi puff. Yeah.
And we had 2 drinks.
I had a moof juice.
And I had a sour Sarlacc.
Yeah.
Oh, fun! Have you guys, either of you, tried the Melaroon juice?
No, we didn't try that one.
Also found in Docking Bay 7?
No, that's at Ronto Roasters.
Okay, at Roasters we just had the wrap.
The Ronto wrap, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I guess you'll have to go back again.
Darn it!
So, out of your whole day, what surprised you the most?
Oh gosh, what do you think?
Again, the big word is immersion here, right? Immersion. So that surprised me that it was that immersive, personally, despite the entire crowd being there. We didn't have many characters per se, that weren't, in the store selling things. We saw 2 stormtroopers. We saw Rey at the very end.
Good.
We saw, Chewie in the beginning. And then in the beginning, we also saw the Vimurati.
Vimurati, yeah.
She was there shortly. Otherwise, it was just the people who worked there, and they said, this is 15.99 credits. That was fun. But what I was wishing a little bit more, and I think Richard and Sarah, I think you guys, that's part of your, maybe you've already done this or not, but interviewing these people there, telling you their story,
Yeah.
I think the first person we came across who actually told us where to go to Savi's, we asked him, so where are you from? He said, I'm from Batu, like an hour away. That was fun. And then he had to go somewhere. But I wish there were more people just strolling around and maybe talking to us, like, hey, have you seen troopers lately, or something, like something to...
Or telling you about secret resistance meetings.
Yeah.
And resistance gathering. Yeah.
Like on their own, like approaching you, or taking you somewhere, like, oh gosh, well, I want to show you this. I want to show you my speedo garage. What do you think? Something like that.
That could happen like down the line, I think, especially here on the world side, Disney World side. It is cast preview, and they are trying to work out the kinks of, cast members were a different breed, and a lot of us, maybe knew this was coming, or have friends that are working, in resistance supply or Droid Depot or something. So I think once we get actual park guests, I think the annual pass holder event is coming up shortly after the cast member preview ends. I think there'll be a little bit more development of those characters and the interaction with actual park guests as opposed to cast members. Being a cast member, I know when you're with other, your peers, you're kind of like more reserved and maybe, a little bit more holding back because you don't want to, get embarrassed in front of your best friend that you worked with for 6 years on college program. But with an actual guest who's there, they might be more comfortable to let loose and, be a little bit more playful and get into their characters more. That's just what I think about it.
Plus, with park guests, they have kids and stuff, too.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when they're all cast members, like, hey, Fred, you were working at Teacups last week.
Yeah, did you go? Yeah.
And then now you're over here at Olga's Cantina.
Exactly. Got it.
Speaking of Olga's Cantina, did you get a fuzzy tauntaun?
We didn't Cantina. We were told that sometimes you could, because since we had the Savi's workshop experience, it was either or for the preview, choose one or the other. And we were told by some friends that occasionally they would let you in without a reservation, but both times I passed it, the line was pretty long, and so we didn't want to take our chances by, making such a request. So we just kind of poked our head around the corner and looked inside and made a mental note to check it out next time we go.
Yep.
Okay. Did you guys adopt a loth cat or any kind of other thing?
Minoc.
Did you buy anything?
Yes, we bought a few of one each of the lanyards, the cast member lanyards. Those were available for sale. I bought the wooden Stormtrooper doll as seen in Rogue One.
Yep.
Oh, Stormy.
Oh, for that. He found it, yes.
Yes, I was looking for that. And I finally found it at...
Toydarian Toy Maker?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one thing I really wanted was Stormy.
What happened? Did you get it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was sold out the first couple of times we were there, and then they had restocked when we were just walking in. It's like, I knocked over 3 kids and 4 adults to get it. You got to do what you got to do.
I'm a huge fan of plushes. Like, I love plushes. I have far too many to count, and I had to, adopt some out recently, but I really enjoyed going to the creature stall, and I wanted to adopt every creature in there, like the Tauntaun, they had 2 different porgs, and the Wampa, the posable Wampa. I wanted to get one of those. I resisted. I practiced resistance, but I have made a shopping list for myself come Christmas time when we visit again to adopt more creatures from the stall.
Oh, that's sounds so much fun.
Well, there's just so many that it's hard to stop. Just get a shopping cart and just get your arm and wipe the whole a shelf into the cart and walk away.
I think every time we go, Richard, we kind of adopt another one.
Yeah.
And another one. So we have like a Loth cat.
And a Minoc, and a Tauntaun, and a Wampa. Yeah, we just don't know when to stop. It's a sickness.
Yeah, isn't it though? Now, look at their faces and go, which one speaks to me? Like, which one is calling me
exactly
to take them home? Like, I look at every single expression on every face before I pick one out. It's obnoxious.
Did you get a puffer? Did you get a puffer pig?
We have not gotten one of those yet. That's like, out of all the creatures, that one will be chosen and adopted last.
Yeah, it's not enough fur, right? It's not soft enough.
Exactly.
I think the Nibre is underneath the puffer pig. Because the Nibre doesn't really do anything.
No.
But we love. We went also into Doc Ondor's.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was amazing.
That was something. I mean, the walls. You could have looked at the walls for hours and found something new every. Not even looking at everything.
What was your favorite Easter egg?
Oh wow!
We didn't find the Ark of the Covenant. We heard it was in there, but we never saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one at our Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities is up on the balcony, and it's hidden.
Like, you actually have to be kind of on the side of the room and like on your tiptoes looking up.
Yeah, you got to be over 6 feet tall
to see a part of it,
and stand on your tippy toes to actually see the corner of it.
Okay.
All right. No, we kind of went in there cold. We didn't really know, to look for any of those Easter eggs, but we did. Just glancing at everything. I mean, we obviously saw the creature heads on the wall and the big Wampa and Doc Ondar itself. He was pretty cool too.
Yeah,
moving in his little
Starlight,
cage.
Baby Starlight.
Oh, the baby Starlight was just adorable. Do you guys know what was in the green fluid? Do you know what that was?
Isn't there's supposed to be, at least it says in the books and the comics, that there is the trash compactor creature.
A Dianoga?
Yeah, there's supposed to be a Dianoga also in Doc Ondar's. So maybe that's the Dianoga. But I always assumed, because in the books, there is a Dianoga in there. But I always assumed that it broke out and is now living in the girls' restroom.
Yeah, the restroom.
Yeah. I know, right? Did you go in that restroom? Did you go in the refresher?
We did.
We did. I took some pictures. I didn't take pictures. There were people, in the urinals. I didn't take pictures of these guys, but I took a picture of the where you wash your hands, the sinks, and then also the floor was pretty cool. The how the stones were arranged, and that was
the grittiest clean bathroom I've ever been in my entire life. It's so clean, and I stayed in there and washed my hands for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I took video the first time we were there, and I was asked repeatedly, "Sir, could you please stop taking video of people using the urinals? It's just really not a good thing to do." But you gotta do what you gotta do. I want to get that footage, and I got it. Now, what is the best piece of advice you could offer people who are now planning their trips to Galaxy's Edge?
Take their time, open their minds to something new and unexpected. It's a new generation of Star Wars, stories, fans. This is moving forward in the Star Wars universe. Open your minds, open your eyes, take your time and enjoy every bit, every crack in the building, every sound effect that you hear, every rustle in the trees, every story that you're told. Like, hang on to everything, and it's all part of the experience. And just go in with no expectations. Just go in with open mind and a clear slate.
Oh, very nice.
Nice.
Marcus, how about you? If one of your friends said, "Hey, I'm going to go to Galaxy's Edge in Hollywood Studios," what would you say to them?
What's the first thing you say?
It depends if they're like an OT fan or, it all depends, because people, personally, I would have loved to see Mos Eisley, but as Lisa said, we're moving forward. We can't just, stay in the 70s and 80s. It's just the natural things of flow, natural things. We just have to move forward. So, we see all, original trilogy elements like the Falcon, we see an A-Wing and X-Wing. It's all there, but it's set in the, in the sequel area. So to appreciate what is being done there, they should have a certain appreciation for the sequels too. But it is worth every second you're in there.
Okay. Well, that's really good to take away. Now, if our Skywalkers, if our listeners want to get a hold of you guys on social media and ask you more, where can they find you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, Tiffany Blue 925. I'm on Twitter as Lena Dazel. My first last name backwards, so it's Lisa Daniel backwards. And I'm also on Snapchat, Tiffany Blue 925.
I'm on Facebook, Marcus Dohring, and Instagram and Twitter is TK14057. That's my If I Were First Legion handle. And also on Snapchat. I'm also on Tumblr. I'm also found in Franklin, Tennessee.
And what is your ATM PIN number?
Yeah. What's that?
Well, thank you two very much for coming on and sharing your experiences. I just love to hear the experiences of people when they first go to Galaxy's Edge and hear their story and their enthusiasm. So,
yeah.
As they say at Black Spire Outpost, till the spire.
Yep,
till the spires.
Well, that wraps up episode 256 of
Skywalking Through Neverland.
We'd like to thank Jeff Baham, Marcus Dohring, Lisa Daniel for coming on the show today. We'd also like to thank all of you Skywalkers for listening and for watching our latest videos on YouTube.
And if everything goes according to plan, next week we're going to have a very special guest. He's got a very busy touring schedule right now, but this is in the works.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, the saga begins.
What? Okay. You think on that.
Who could that be?
Well, while you're thinking about that, we'd also like to thank our sponsor, Small World Vacations. Are you thinking of a trip to Galaxy's Edge? You can fill out a Get a Quote form at smallworldvacations.com today, and their vacation planning service is free of charge. So check it out and tell them that Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
And this is the time to do it.
We are always posting on YouTube. So once again, head to YouTube and check out Who is Oga? That's our new video on Galaxy's Edge. And please check out all the rest of the shows on the Skywalking Network, Skynet, including the Culture Podcast and Sabers and Spells, which just put out an episode this week. You can find us all at skywalkingthroughneverland.com. We want to give a huge thank you for everyone who is part of the Skywalking Force. If you would like more Skywalking Through Neverland in your life, please check out skywalkingforce.com and help support this ever-growing Skynet. If you'd like to support us in a different way, please share the show with a friend, or you can go to the Support Us tab on our website and click the links to Pozu Shoes, Oppo Suits, or TeePublic, and that will send a little bit of money our way. So thank you so much.
Now you can find Skywalking Through Neverland at JediNews.co.uk and at Bantha Tracks.
You can also reach us on social media. We are at Skywalking Pod for Twitter and Instagram. And you can join our lovely Facebook group where we have so many awesome conversations. And you can just search Facebook for Skywalking Group and request to join and answer those questions that pop up.
And we always love your reviews, so go over there to Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and let us know what you think.
Now stay tuned for bloopers, lots of fun bloopers, and maybe some other fun conversation right after these credits. And always remember,
may the spires keep you, and
till the spire,
and
Neverland on Alderaan.
Some imagination, huh?
To our Skywalkers and Tweetwalkers, thanks for listening. Skywalking Through Neverland is created and produced by Richard and Sarah Woloski. Original music by Rob Dellinger. Creative consultant Mark Augushowitz. Technical advisor Peter Heitman. Facebook administrators Donald Wicks, Joey Pittman, and Norma Heitman.
Skywalking Through Neverland is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Any sounds, music, and clips played during this podcast are the property of their copyright holders. All original content is property of Skywalking Through Neverland, all rights reserved. Sorry, had to be said.
I'm gonna press record. Look, I press record.
Do you think we can do this in 8 hours?
I think we can.
I don't know. Now, we are recording this from Long Beach, California on August the 12th, the 50th anniversary to the date, 2019.
Yes.
Now, we are recording... Before we go on, is there something vibrating in the room?
Motorcycle. In his garage, revving his motorcycle motor. And he's just like sitting there idling. And he's not going anywhere. Can you hear it?
Can you bring the computer outside? I need to speak to this guy.
Okay.
Now, after hearing all your stories about Galaxy's Edge, guess where we're going tonight? We're going to Galaxy's Edge.
That's right.
Oh, way.
Nice.
It's only 8 o'clock over here,
Yeah.
so we still have 4 more hours to enjoy everything it has to offer.
And go in the Haunted Mansion.
All right, well, thanks again for coming on, and when you see your motorcycle riding neighbor, tell him thanks a lot for joining us as well.
Oh, sporks. I don't think they're going to have sporks. I think they learned their lesson, Chica Fent, in Disneyland. They had, what did they say? They had like 3,000 sporks.
Yeah.
The first day, and by the end of that day, there was like less than half left because people stole them. That wraps up episode 256 of Skywalking Through. What? I was trying to hide my breath so you wouldn't miss. We can't get through it now. Well, that wraps up episode 256 of Skywalking. Stop it!
Oh no, it's starting. Okay. Blah, 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 blah.